This is Doc with Doc and Lefty. Thanks for joining us tonight. Tonight is another historical vote in America. We have one of the closest races ever in the history of our country. You have Mitt Romney, who is a centrist, and versus Barack Obama, who has the potential to be a centrist, but so far is really kind of taking a left turn. So we're going to be covering some of the results tonight. They should be coming in. We're starting our show right when the polls are first coming in. Blake.
How's it going?
It's going all right. Did you vote straight Republican ticket like I told you?
You did mention that on the last show. It's a good thing that we're co-hosts and I don't actually work for you.
Rats,
because remember, everybody, if you don't vote the way your boss tells you, you can get fired. You really can't do anything to him. No, I did not. I voted a straight Democratic ticket, except my ballot might get tossed out, actually.
Really?
Well, because this is the thing that I don't really like about Iowa's ballots, is that, to save time, they give you the little dot that you can vote a straight line ticket, or you can go through and pick and choose which one you do. Well,
yes.
I don't trust our electoral system to notice my one dot being for the straight Democratic ticket. So I go in and fill them all out, regardless.
Yeah.
I go out and I do my straight line party vote, and then I vote for all the Democratic candidates. But this time around in my district, the Dallas County Auditor, the Dallas County Sheriff, and the Dallas County Recorder, maybe, or the Treasurer, all Republicans were running unopposed.
Okay.
Well, rather than just leave my ballot blank because, it doesn't matter anyway, and I actually kind of like how the auditor works, and I kind of like the recorder out there. They've done right by me in the past with the things that and it's an efficient office there in Adel. I marked them in. Now, because I voted straight line Democratic and then marked in unopposed Republicans, does that present a conflict? See, this is why we need Gene Crum on the phone and ask him, will my ballot get tossed out?
Leave it to Lefty to get to select straight party ticket and then vote for a Republican. Unbelievable. I tell a lot of my Democratic friends to do that. I say, go through and at the bottom, if you don't know what to vote for, write somebody in.
The thing is,
especially when they're voting for Obama.
The thing is, when it comes to writing in candidates, I feel like, I suppose that would be the purest form of democracy, but it's an uninformed sort of joke thing to do. And I happen to take elections pretty seriously, so I don't like to kind of mess around with the vote.
No, and the truth is, and I think you can agree with me, it's one of the few rights that governments give consistently to people is the right to vote. I mean, in the modern age, we all know that, democracy had to form. But it's really one of the few actual rights. They can't take your right to vote unless, you're a felon is one thing. If you've been deemed mentally incompetent is another one.
And I'll break in there because this is an important piece of information that, the polls in Iowa don't close till 9 o'clock. So if you're somebody out there who's been convicted of a felony and you happen to be listening to our program here on Webcast One Live, which, let's face it, is probably a fair number of you.
Well, they're your friends.
And clients.
Yes.
It probably won't help if you haven't done it by now already. It won't help you. But from the next election, not just the general election, but the next election that comes up in your community, you have to now. Governor Branstad changed this from what Vilsack and Culver had done, where it was an automatic thing after a certain amount of time that you got your voting rights back if you're a convicted felon. Now you have to petition the governor to get your voting rights back. As far as I know, it's kind of a rubber stamp if you're not sort of a someone who's still incarcerated. I think it's a fairly easy process to do, and you want to do it because it's so much is taken from these people when they go into prison, when they get adjudged guilty of a crime, especially of a felony, that if you can get something back for yourself, I think it's really important.
Yeah, and for me, I think it would have to depend on the crime. We have a lot of people facing felony drug charges over what, an ounce of marijuana? Isn't that what makes it a felony? An ounce of marijuana?
What's that? An ounce.
Thanks for playing.
Well, I was gonna point out a couple of things here after when we moved on to the next segment.
Okay. But
an ounce of marijuana with that, it depends what a felony possession of marijuana is considered, because you have to prove intent to deliver.
Well, but you have a lot of people that make honest mistakes. Do something stupid when they're young, and with the drug laws that we have. There's a lot of people that are in jail that really either should be in treatment or in an offender rehabilitation program. And so I'm okay, with saying, we need to reduce some of these, get these addicts out of jail. But, you get a hardcore MS-13 banger, I don't think they should have their right to vote back. I don't think that
if
at
they've
all.
been convicted of a murder.
Yeah, of a violent crime, or or they're distributing, I don't know, 3 or 4 pounds of meth at a shot.
Well, hey, maybe we can talk a little bit about drug policy in one of the segments, because I was having this conversation with a friend of mine just recently about sort of how confused the drug policy in this country is.
Absolutely.
And so we maybe we can talk about that, maybe just work that into the legal part.
In the legal minute,
because it's more of an opinion. I don't have a whole lot of legal analysis on it. I just have a lot of public policy thoughts. But anyway, when it comes down to votes, and I should probably know this, but I'm not an expert in election law. I feel like if you are incarcerated, if you're in a jail or a penitentiary, you are ineligible to vote just because you're not. I don't think that you can vote from a prison. They're not going to. I don't think they're sending absentee ballots to Fort Madison.
No, they don't. Yeah,
I don't. And maybe somebody can call in or shoot us a message on Facebook and correct me on that. But I don't think that's possible. So these violent criminals who are spending a lot of time in prison, they're never voting. That's kind of off the table. I think that you and I agree, though, that the folks that say I had a client earlier on last year who was a guy who is a hunter. Had been hunting all his life. Well, 10, 12 years ago, he got picked up for stealing some spools of copper wire from what he thought was an abandoned construction site. Well, it wasn't, and he pled guilty to burglary in the third degree, because he broke into a site and stole some stuff, which is a D felony in Iowa. Well, third degree, I think it's a D felony. Like I said, the classes of crimes, I don't know all those off the top of my head. Regardless, he was convicted of a felony. Well, after he had, during the Vilsack administration, where Governor Vilsack, gave people back their voting rights, and then also said, if you remember this is what happened, said, if you were convicted of a nonviolent felony, you can petition the governor's office to get the right to carry a firearm, because under state law and under federal law, if you're a felon, you cannot own or possess a firearm. You're not even supposed to hold it. This guy's a lifelong hunter. He interpreted that to mean, well, I just get to carry a gun again. I get to go hunt with my son and with his friends again. And so for a decade, down in South Central Iowa, he went hunting every year, got a hunting license every single year. Well, last year, the DNR guy, the DNR marshal, comes up and asks to check all their licenses while they're out hunting, and sees my client with a gun and runs his record, and they arrest him and charge him with a D felony because he was holding it, and he admitted to holding it. Well, we pled him down and we got him taken care of. But the moral of the story is that's a person who should have the right to vote, and now he won't because he got convicted of a new felony. That's the kind of guy we're talking about. He wasn't convicted of a violent crime originally, and got popped again, basically because he didn't pay attention to the news as closely as he should have. And I don't think that's a felony, Doc. I just don't.
And I agree that there are exceptions to this. I agree. Now we're running up close against it's time for our first commercial break. What we're going to be back with is we're going to take a look at how the votes are shaking out so far. We're going to talk about some local politics things. Mike Brown, of course, can't make it tonight. He obviously is busy. It's election night.
I was skeptical.
Well, I tried to get his wife to come on. I said, we can talk about the stresses and, we're also going to talk about Judge Wiggins. He was one of the triumvirate, apparently, that earned Uncle Bob's ire. That's Bob Vanderplat's. And they had a retention vote in the last election. And this is the last. He escaped being retained, I guess. Is that the proper term?
Well, he wasn't up.
Oh, he wasn't up. So this time they're going after him. And of course, you and my brother Joe were on there with the last retention vote. Mm-hmm. And we'll be discussing that and many other interesting things. So we'll be back in just about, how long is the break there? 3 minutes. We'll be back in 3 minutes. So listen to our sponsor here. Is it Leach? Jim? Yeah. So he keeps our studio running, and please tune in and listen. We'll be back in 3 minutes.
Owner and General Manager of Service Legends. I brought along a couple of the home comfort heroes.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wells.
I am Nick Wondershot.
I'm Administrative Manager
I am the Senior Technician
from Service Legends.
It seems like every good thing, when you feel it to the bone that it's good, there's a lot of hard work put behind it. I don't think that you can fake it and have it turn out good.
You know, if we seem like, okay, that's just weird, it's just a furnace, why would you believe so deeply in a furnace? It's not just that, we want to show the world that you can have good service.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be, it's your home.
It's built into our daily trainings, it's built into our culture, that we're going to do whatever it takes to have each client say they love us, period.
That's why we spend all the hours in the training that we do. And if we guarantee it's going to be a good experience for you, or else it's free, what type of work do you think we're going to do?
There is a guarantee.
Temperature selection guarantee, fixed right or it's free guarantee, comfort guarantee, best value guarantee. All of these guarantees hold us accountable to ensuring that we exceed your expectations. And if for whatever reason we'd fail and we can't make it right, we guarantee all of those guarantees with a 100% money back guarantee.
I mean, if you don't think that your technician can fix it right, are you going to say that to a client? No.
You don't have to worry about having a technician come to your house.
We drug test, background check all of our team members. We put safe people in your home. Each and every one of our service techs, 400 hours a year in training.
You tell it the minute they walk in the door. They know what they're doing, they've done their homework, and they actually truly care about what you want.
Because at the end of the day, you're the person that makes sure I have a job.
They're going to be listening. They're going to want to know what your challenges are. Then they're going to come and give you options, and you get to choose.
If I'm there to help and I make it easy and painless, I did my job right that day.
Well, when it comes to your comfort, safety, and your family, you don't necessarily go buy the most expensive, but you get the most bang for your buck.
Oh, it's worth it, because there's a lot of people that will find a way to get it to work right now and then leave and then come back, charge you again, and the cycle just repeats itself. So when I'm out there looking at the furnace, I want to find why it failed today. How can we change the part today with something that you're not going to have to worry about? Is it worth changing the part today? I mean, you can put a lot of money into a furnace. I can fix parts all day. There's good job security in that for me, but is it the right thing for you?
I get a lot of the phone calls of after the technicians are there. They're just in awe. They're like, wow, you guys are great. I mean, I don't even know what to say. You guys are great. Everything you did was perfect. It was great.
Keep going though, I like this.
Just give us a try. I'm gonna take all the risk.
I've got the time to make this right. I've got the support to make it right.
Just check us out.
And if you don't see the value in what we do,
I mean, fixed right or it's free or 100% money back.
enough said.
This is Doc with Doc and Lefty. We're here today. We're going to give you a little bit of an update on the, for those who are listening live, we're going to give an update on the results. Mitt Romney's won. Everybody else can go home. he won. Their Fox News is projecting Romney won in Indiana and Kentucky, and Obama won in Vermont.
I am shocked by those results.
I'm not.
Indiana was a battleground. That was part of the Midwest firewall. Doc, you know what? Call it. You might as well call it right now. You lose Indiana, you lose the country.
Well, what's funny is they never talk about how Democratic presidents really do need Indiana. You
didn't get Indiana the last time.
Well, I'm just saying. I'm just saying. So
he probably should have got Indiana. They're a big basketball state. The president likes basketball.
Well, and he was so strong. Well, part of this is on Obama. I think Obama dropped the ball, and I don't know what it was. Just the arrogance of the left, or if he had such disdain for Romney, because basically Romney took the rope-a-dope approach. and that is, I'm going to let you beat on me until the final round, you know? And, you know, he just went not to lose. He was in prevent defense for a long time. He came out fighting in that one debate, and then he hasn't really done much since.
Well, that's why he lost all that momentum, though. You know what Romney really needed to do.
And the storm helped a lot too.
It did. The kinda. Well, I don't know. That the folks really liked the president's response, and it's. I was listening to the BBC over the weekend, and their analysis was, and this is, I think, and this isn't anything new. So you know, our listeners are pretty savvy, but the BBC, you know, said just by being in control and looking presidential really helps the president, because that was sort of the knock on him from the first debate. Although it didn't hurt that Chris Christie crawled up his butt.
Well, and you know, and that's how it's perceived, you know, and
that's it's how it should be, honestly.
And that was my point. That's how it should be. If you have a national disaster, you get out there and help.
Exactly. And you know, here's my.
And if Romney can't overcome a governor going, "Thank you, Mr. President, for helping my state," then really, should he be president? And if he can't overcome a president doing his job,
exactly, well,
then should you be doing the job?
And you know, this is where I think that I'd really like to see Chris Christie with more national profile, because of his response to the Fox News folks, where they kind of laid into him a little bit about being so praiseworthy, and he said, you know, I don't care, I have a state to save.
Well, what he said exactly was, this is how adults act.
Yeah,
that's what he said.
It's
and
true.
I thought, amen. That is absolutely true.
It's true. Here just some sort of like some more meta analysis that I've kind of picked up over the last few weeks about this campaign. Some questions that the Republicans and the Democrats have to ask themselves once this is all over. If the president gets reelected,
yes.
If the president gets reelected, what does that say about the state of the Republican Party? That the Republican Party could not field a candidate to take down a Democratic first-term president with an unemployment rate above 7% on Election Day.
And
what does that say?
That says, I'm going to be honest, you know, and don't get me wrong, you know me, I've been a lifetime, and I was hoping to be cradle grave Republican, but the bottom line is you have a certain segment in the Republican Party that alienates voters, and that's the truth. And I'm sure I'm going to get, you know, pounded on this by the GOP bigwigs and the people that run the GOP. But that's the truth. And that's been an argument that's been going on for at least a decade now. Doug Gross, Governor Branstad's former deputy, has spoken several times about how we can't be eliminating people from our roles. We have to be the big tent Republicans like we were under Reagan. You know, and again, back then, you know, Reagan didn't have to deal with the gay marriage thing. And these people that want, you know, they call it, you know, marriage equality. I think that's crap. You know, they want gay marriage, and that's what they want. And they're very vocal, and they're very activist. And you have a group in the Republican Party that seeks out to alienate that very group. And some of the biggest Republicans when I was growing up, at least one guy, Rich Eichner, since you're not from around here, but he was a giant developmental guy. Apparently he's gay. There's a very prominent Republican in Southern Iowa. He's saying, well, listen, I'm going to develop this platform where you can be Republican and gay, and we're going to support gay marriage. And, you know, like you and I have talked, how do you come up with a bill that denies property rights to a group of individuals? And that's really what it boils down to. On the show where my brother came on, you guys discussed the April 19th decision. It was April 19th, 2010. Was that what the date was? 2009. You know, these guys made the right decision. You know, if you look at it, part of their decision was you can't deny property rights. So you have a group in the Republican Party that is alienating to everybody else. And some of my friends are the most conservative, fiscally conservative people the other day. In fact, I ran into an old friend of mine, John Ewald, and he told me directly, you know what, Pat? He says, I would have voted for you in the election because I ran, you know. He said, but you weren't right enough for me. You weren't, conservative enough. So anyway, I get back to how did I go from being a radical conservative to being a moderate is beyond me. But that, to me, shows you exactly how far the Republican Party has drifted.
Well, what's so crazy about that particular position is that you didn't come out, if I remember correctly, and I was you and I were friends when you were running. You didn't come out in favor of gay marriage. You just said it. I don't care. That was your position when you were asked those questions in the primary. You said, look, that's not something that I have really. I mean, we have more pressing issues to talk about. If people want to get married, that's not really a federal government sort of issue. It was sort of your position. Now, the thing and I agree with you. I think that's one part of it. I think another part of the Republican not problem necessarily, because they might pull this thing off, and I'll have a question about what it says about the Democrats here in a second, but another couple of segments of the Republican Party that the Democrats for the last 30 years have been a really good job of kind of turning against the Republicans are women's issues and immigration. Yes. Because I think that the Republican Party is just sort of got caught in between something on both those issues. There is no women now make up the majority of the workforce. They make up 51% of the workforce in this country.
Yes.
Not making the most money, but have the most members in the workforce. Eventually, the economic power in this country is going to equalize and shift slightly in favor of women. It's going to take a while, but it's going to happen. There's
a statistic today that I listened to on radio that Governor Branstad released, and that is there is a vast majority, at least a 30% increase over men with female government workers.
Right.
And when I was on the campaign trail, I would talk to these liberals who I would talk to them and with everything except for abortion, they were conservatives. And when I got to talking to them about abortion, the first thing they would say is, what are you going to do with all the extra kids? You don't want to provide social services. I think if the Republicans simply said, listen, we don't like abortion and we're willing to provide social services for these people.
Destroys that argument.
It destroys a lot of the arguments these people have.
But
we're going to break for a commercial here because we're going to be right on time. Join us. We have about, a 1 minute break there, Frank? All right. And we're be back with Doc and Lefty. We'll be discussing women's rights, Wiggins, and a bunch of other stuff. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be right back.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
If Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of America was your personal webmaster, Tom would filter out all bad debt emails. If Tom was your mailman, you'd never get any debt reduction junk mail. If Tom Coates was a lineman, he'd block any phone calls offering to reduce your credit card debt.
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America, and we're still your best choice for credit counseling. We're local, we're accountable, and we can do more. You make the call when the time's right for you.
When it comes to competition, there really is none for Consumer Credit of America.
Whether you're 10, 25, 50, 80 years old and beyond, everyone needs to live within their means. I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America. For almost a quarter of a century, we've helped people of all ages learn to manage their personal finances to benefit them far into the future. When problems arise, we've got the experience you need to make those debt problems go away. Got financial problems? Call Consumer Credit of America.
Oh, jeez. Lefty was supposed to bring us in from that. I was relaxing.
Hey,
sorry about that.
Hey, we've got to get this. Maybe it cues off my
good looks.
My voice.
Oh yes, that's right.
My sonorous, chocolatey voice. Anyway, no, we were talking
Velvety.
before we went into the break. We were talking about how women are gaining market share in the workforce and are now have the most
absolutely
the demographic. And so my sort of thought about that is if you kind of take it from a historical context, if women start gaining more and more economic power, then it stands to reason that that women as a sort of a demographic are going to trend more conservative over time. Because, and this isn't a knock on conservatives, I'm not going to sit here and call you greedy fat cats or anything, because that's not where I'm going with this one. But it seems that the more sort of resources and economic power and economic clout that a section of the population gets, it tends more to conservative, because the Conservative Party in this country is more interested and has a platform where you keep more of that economic output that you have earned. So that's at least that's been the kind of the meme for the last several decades, is that the more that you keep more of your own money, the more money you make, it tends to make the group that's making the most money more conservative. So it would be logical under that argument that women would trend more conservative with the more of the economic pie they're able to sort of divide up for themselves.
Absolutely.
But the Republican Party, in my opinion, has been so bad on the things that women, quote unquote, that the women's issues. Now, I find that term offensive because they're human issues. There shouldn't be a men's issue, a woman's issue, because women are more than an abortion vote. Men are more than an economic vote. Yeah, exactly. So it's just we need to think about these things in a unified way. But the Republicans have been so bad when they go out now, and I'm not even talking about abortion necessarily, the pro-life, pro-choice thing, because it's you're arguing when you're arguing pro-life and pro-choice, you're arguing a very narrow difference. But it's when they start talking about contraception, when they start talking about the ERA, when they start talking about equal pay for equal work, when they start talking about these more specific things that are linked more directly to the women in the economy. Contraception is a big one, because contraception has made it possible over the last 50 years for women to enter the workplace. And it's played a very big role in women's health over that time.
And it's made it a lot easier for guys like me and you. Absolutely.
You can't argue with that. And so when you saw it start in the States, and then in the last few years, the Republican Party sort of start to attack those contraceptive issues, and not just the workplace thing, but
and I get that, and that's part of the that's I'm just going to call it what it is. That's part of the fringe that's wrong with the Republican Party.
They're governors now. You know what I'm saying? They're the vice presidential nominee on the Republican side. That stuff has been mainstreamed over the last 10 years. And that's what's really driven a wedge to the Republican Party and women.
Well, and I agree, but there are pro-life women.
Oh, of course there are.
But part of the problem is when you're trying to change things for the better, you have this problem called facts. And when you start talking about facts, people start getting upset. Because I know one of the things that there's been several studies out there that show it's not a question of whether you're male or female, but what your height is. And if you take a 6-foot woman doing the same job a 5'8" man's doing, the 6-foot woman will make more money. That's universal. You can look at it in sports. Highest paid people in sports are who? Basketball players. Lowest paid people? Gymnasts. Right? That's part of the thing. You look at it in the presidential elections. Whoever is taller wins. Now, there's a couple of exceptions to that rule. Bush, for one, and I can't remember if it was Taft. Way back when in the late 1800s. One of those guys lost because he was shorter.
Taft was huge.
But he was fat.
Yeah.
He wasn't necessarily tall. So, you have a lot of those things. So when you start bringing out, geez, we have these other issues that go along with women's pay, how do you correct for that? Now, it's not that I don't believe that women should have equal pay for equal work, but part of the problem is sometimes they don't do equal work. I know in my own profession, virtually every female psychiatrist that's in that works here in Des Moines works part-time. So when you add what they make compared to what I make, I make about twice as much. Now, I will tell you, I also work twice as much. So how do you level that playing field? And that's the problem with statistics. I'm just talking specifically about this. If you want to make it so that they're getting $180 an hour and I'm getting $180 and everybody gets $180, great. But the other part of this is you also have to negotiate. And I haven't met very many women that are great negotiators. I've met a few. Don't get me wrong.
Madeleine Albright.
Madeleine Albright's wonderful. Right. My
Hillary
friend
Clinton.
Roxanne Peterson.
I mean, that's I kind of see where you're going with this, and I'm going to break in because it just.
I'm not trying to be mean, and I'm not.
No,
but I'm just saying that there's
that.
some facts that we have to get clear. But they're politically unpopular.
Well, but see, you can also make the same statement about that attractive people do better, and that has been shown by statistics. And you can make out
that's true.
You can make out all these different kinds of things. But when you start breaking it down to likes and likes, you start talking about psychiatrists. Now you know a bunch of psychiatrists in Des Moines.
Yes, that's true.
I would challenge you and say that you don't know every female psychologist in the country. And so if you take the field of psychiatry as a whole, and if it breaks down over the entire country, if it breaks down that male psychiatrists are making more money than female psychiatrists for doing the same amount of work on an average, I'd submit to you that there's an issue with that, because in the field of psychiatry, just like in the field of law, there are certain talents and certain things that men and women bring to the table, and certain ways they think about things differently, but it all kind of evens out. It's all a wash. Are we being signaled for a break there?
I was excited. We had the phone ring. I thought maybe we have a caller.
Oh,
we're actually up a person tonight.
Oh,
one of the people
really?
at Child Guidance Center said she'd listen.
Well, good.
So
I'm glad to hear it.
Her name's Christine.
But my point is that taken as a mean, there really is no difference in the sexes in fields like psychology, psychiatry, the law, medicine. It's hard for me to make a credible argument that women are equal to men in highly physically intensive fields, just because, especially if the sample is weighted with men who are 6'4", 240-pound behemoths that have pecs for days. That doesn't mean that there isn't a woman out there who can do a lot of that work herself, because she's strong, but like I said, in a mean kind of average sort of way. Sure,
absolutely. So, well, we're going to end this segment. We're going to be back in about a minute. 1 minute, great. Next segment, we're going to talk about Judge Wiggins and how, in my opinion, all judges need to have a term limit. And we're going to talk about some of the local races, hopefully. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you back in just 1 minute.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Drug and alcohol addiction slowly steals a person's identity, tearing away pieces of their life little by little, until one day it seems like the hope of a happy future is gone and there's no chance of getting it back. Here at St. Gregory Retreat Centers, we can assure you that there is hope. Our unique approach to recovery begins with the understanding that the dysfunction and damage caused by addiction can be overcome, not just dealt with. Don't let another day go by. Call St. Gregory today.
It's like they want to get hit.
Need a body shop?
Welcome back. This is Lefty with Doc and Lefty. That's a pretty good opening, I think.
You're listening to us on Webcast One Live.
That's right, Webcast One Live. Thank you to all of our great sponsors like Service
Legends with Brian Leach.
Yeah, that's right. They're going to kick this segment off. We're going to talk a little bit about the flipping the ballot over, the judicial retention issue, and the incredible vitriolic, every pejorative adjective that you come and think of, campaign against the Honorable Justice David Wiggins. I happen to know Justice Wiggins personally. I've known him for he was the justice that helped swear me in when I got my license, and also was the judge that signed off on my application to be a member of the bar of the Southern District of Iowa, so I can appear in federal court. One of the smartest guys you'd ever want to talk to. Great jurist. One of the most sort of pointed question askers on the Supreme Court. One of these intellects that now he is arrogant, and I don't think that anybody would ever question otherwise. He's this guy that, but it's the kind of arrogance that comes from a lifetime of having been right most of the time. I'm sure that you're not unfamiliar with that particular kind of arrogance.
No, I'm not. Hey, Frank, can you put the number up here? Because I've gotten a couple of texts. People want to call in.
Oh my goodness!
And I think we're up to 13 listeners.
Hey, you know what? We're
lucky number 13.
We're getting there.
Right. So back to
Justice Wiggins has got the family council or whatever Bob Vanderplatz's organization is against him because of his participation in the gay marriage decision back in 2009. Well, really, as a lawyer and as a member of the bar of the state of Iowa, it really offends me when
you're easily offended.
When a group of non-lawyers who have an opinion about how justice should be rendered in this state launch an attack against a judge with such a superlative record. There's never been any kind of a complaint against him. There's never been any sort of scandal related to financial stuff or improprieties. He's always comported himself on the bench with integrity and judicious bearing. And so it's frustrating because you hear all the time from the right about activism, activist judges, and politics from the bench. And then they turn around and try and assert politics on the bench by launching this campaign saying because of a decision that he rendered, he is incapable of, or he should be ineligible to sit on the Supreme Court. And it's a stance from a group that whose membership is comprised of folks that don't understand the law, that don't understand how justices make decisions, and frankly, if their sole purpose for trying to get this guy to oust Justice Wiggins, their sole reason is because, and I'll say this on the air, is because of the gay marriage decision.
Yes.
Then they're bigots.
How are they bigots?
How are they bigots?
You know,
if that's the reason, if they're against him because of that decision, they're against gay marriage, they're bigots.
Now, I will tell you, Bob Vanderplatz is against gay marriage. However, what their point is, and I happen to agree with them on this, is it was their right to say this law is unconstitutional. I agree with that, right? That's their job. Yeah, they struck down DOMA. Great. And the part where I think they got in trouble, and again, I wish my brother was here or at least calling in, but the part where I think they got in trouble is they said, therefore, gay marriage is legal. And that's really what the decision came down to, as far as I understand. And I don't think they're allowed to do that. They're not allowed to say, well, this is what the law is going to be. They can tell the legislators, listen, this law is unconstitutional. Go back and rewrite it, right? But they can't take that extra step and say, well, now gay marriage is the law of the land. And that's the fallacy of this argument, that there is no law saying there is no law on the books saying that gay marriage is legal. It's what happened was certain language that was on the books was struck out as being discriminatory against a class of people, and violating the equal protection of the law. That's what happened. That's right. I mean, there was no law made. There was language retracted from the code, and so to suggest that these justice, I mean, it's the same thing that you hear in the court is activist if it goes against you. You hear liberals do this all the time with Citizens United. This extremely activist court broke with tradition on years and years of campaign finance reform and tradition, and really screwed the pooch on this one. Well, it's because they practical politics says that now the Republicans and the conservatives can spend all kinds of money because they have all the corporate backing. Well, is the court activist? Was the court activist in Roe v. Wade? You know, so your personal opinion, and that's what it comes down to. It comes down to a personal opinion they have about a specific social policy, i.e. gay marriage, that the court, because it fell against them, the court is now activist. And I'm sorry, if you have a problem with gay marriage, if you want your government to step in and tell people how to live
and what they can and can't do with their own private lives and who they can and can't marry because you have a problem with their lifestyle. That is the definition of bigotry.
Well, but part of this, now, two things. One, this Wiggins thing is all over the world. Just a brief Google thing. I mean, San Francisco.
Yep.
I forgot what country I was just looking at. But it's all over. The New York Times, QC Times, all that. It's all over the world. So this is a big thing, big deal. The second thing is what you just pointed to. That's something that that people have said, if you don't strike back at this, then where is the marital bed stop? Does it stop with children? Does it stop with animals? And that's really part of the argument. Now,
that is not part of the argument.
It is, but because where does it stop?
I'll tell you
where does it stop?
If marriage is a civil contract, children can't enter into a civil contract.
And neither can animals.
Exactly.
Well, now that's
Done.
what I tell. I'm just trying to present the other side, because that Boston professor or whatever that fled to Switzerland with his daughter as his girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're in a consensual sexual relationship. I'm going to tell you that it is very rare that you have a consensual sexual relationship with your parent.
Sure.
After you become the age of reason, usually that relationship starts before. So at what point do you go, well, listen, this isn't right. By the way, here's another update. For Fox News has Romney winning in Indiana, Kentucky, South Carolina, and West Virginia. And MSN has only called it for West Virginia and Kentucky. Oh, we have a phone call.
Yep.
Yeah.
You'll have to put on your
Oh, I have to put on my headphones. Oh my God, where are they? So
I've got a pair of headphones here.
Oh man. Well, we have a caller. Oh, there we go. Hi, you're on Doc and Lefty.
Hey there, Doc. This is Tim.
Hey, Tim. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. I just wanted to make a little comment about your little debate there on gay marriage.
Yeah.
I really don't think the state or government should have any say on what marriage is. I think that should be a church-related issue. If there's a church willing to marry two people, it should be recognized by the state.
No argument here, Tim.
Well, and unfortunately, there's not a lot of argument here. Although, you know, they because we have all kinds of civil unions at this kind, you know. So what else do you think about gay marriage, Tim?
How do you mean?
Well, I mean, are you going to go out and vote? Is it going to be something you're going to vote on? Is it an issue
No,
that
it's not.
No, not really.
Well, Tim, if you don't mind me asking, I'm not going to ask you who you voted for today, but what's your party affiliation?
Well, I actually haven't gone and voted yet.
Okay.
I still haven't decided who I really want to vote for. I would call myself
Romney.
Libertarian.
See, that's and Tim, you kind of struck at and you sounded like a younger guy. Is that true?
That's correct.
Okay, well, Tim, I got to tell you, you sound a lot like this new generation of sort of more socially liberal but maybe fiscally conservative people coming up in this country who have more of something to say about fiscal issues because I think that's more important, and what people do in their private lives is not something they have any kind of opinion about.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, go ahead.
Was first and foremost, he's our commander-in-chief, and his foreign policy to me seems like the way to go, whereas Obama seems a little bit weak in the foreign policy department. And most other issues that the president has to deal with come through Congress, and if you want to worry about social issues and stuff like that, vote for the congressman you want to.
That's exactly
the presidential race comes down to foreign policy.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's a really good way to look at it.
Yeah. Well, we're going to have to take a break. Thanks for calling in, Tim. If you want to hang around, we can talk to you a little bit afterwards, too.
Well, I'm going to go vote, actually. So.
All right.
Oh, well, we'll let you go then.
Go Romney. Romney Ryan.
All right. Have a great
straight
one.
Republican ticket.
All right.
Thanks for calling,
See you,
Tim.
Thanks. Well, that was just exciting.
I love it.
Oh, my God.
I love it. You know, I don't want to...
We got a break for a commercial. We're already over. So we'll be back in a minute. So I think Blake can hold his excitement for a minute, can't you?
I can.
Sometimes you can.
Sometimes
right.
I can't.
Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back in about a minute. You're listening to Doc and Lefty on webcast1live.com.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Drug and alcohol addiction slowly steals a person's identity, tearing away pieces of their life little by little until one day it seems like the hope of a happy future is gone and there's no chance of getting it back. Here at St. Gregory Retreat Centers, we can assure you that there is hope. Our unique approach to recovery begins with the understanding that the dysfunction and damage caused by addiction can be overcome, not just dealt with. Don't let another day go by. Call St. Gregory today.
Whether you're 10, 25, 50, 80 years old and beyond, everyone needs to live within their means. I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America. For almost a quarter of a century, we've helped people of all ages learn to manage their personal finances to benefit them far into the future. When problems arise, we've got the experience you need to make those debt problems go away. Got financial problems? Call Consumer Credit of America.
This is Doc with Doc and Lefty. Thank you for joining us. We're here every Tuesday from 6 to 7 p.m. on World Wide Web, webcast1live.com. Man, that's a mouthful.
That is a mouthful.
We got, I don't know. We got to shorten it up.
Talk to Jack, or talk to Mac about getting that shortened up.
Yeah, to just Frank.
Yeah.
Or pizza. I think we ought to just be pizza.com. Everybody remember.
We would be the most,
where's your show? Pizza.com.
We'd be the 8 millionth most popular site on the internet after all the porn sites.
Yes, that's right.
We would be the number 2.
And I'm not really looking at porn. It's
I was just going to let it go. You had the one to be, you had to bring it up.
This guy, the Miss Nevada is in a porn picture with Ron Jeremy.
Well, Ron Jeremy's not really porn anymore. He's just sort of goofy.
But, he's goofy. But, oh, my God, he's funny. You know that LMAFAO video?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's in there,
Fair enough.
So what were you all excited about before the break?
Well, I was really happy how that our first caller, Tim, was our first caller.
Ever.
And, and even from the old days.
Even from the old days.
And I thought that was great. And you had a really good look. And that's the kind of people we like to call in, because it's somebody who I had a feeling had something to say to each of us and to each of our sides of the coin, because what we're about and what we've been about for the last however many years is consensus building. Because, and I was talking about this with a friend of mine today, this country is not broken. Our leaders can't get their acts together.
Well, they're too concerned about themselves,
power and money.
Yeah. And I will tell you, the rules that they have is absolutely ludicrous about what they can do and what they can't do.
Yep.
There's all kinds of special privileges that they get that we don't get. And I think that if you eliminated the rules that they get to live by, that'd be great. And if you had term limits, you would you would fix a lot of the problems.
I think the term limits would create a lot of problems too. The term limits are such a dicey, complicated thing because
that's true. But keep in mind, back then they had term limits. I mean, they did because people died young. That was their term limit. He died. We got to get somebody new.
I go back and forth, and you know this about me. I go back and forth on term limits all the time, because while I really do sympathize with the idea that we need more fresh ideas in our politics, that some of these career politicians, that I don't think Iowa is a really great example of how a political process is supposed to work with citizen politicians. You don't see very many career politicians in Iowa, frankly, because they don't pay very well.
No, they don't play that.
But because you got guys that they're at the State House 3 days a week, and they're at their offices the other 2, and vice versa, and make their votes, and they have a second income, and they live close to their communities. And that's a really good example of how politics should work. And that's really how the Founding Fathers kind of envisioned the national government as more of a citizen politician who went and took care of business during a particular season, then went home. And now it's just so dynamic, and it's so much about fundraising. But I will say this:
absolutely,
term limits would work in a more of a parliamentary structure, I think, because our political system is too volatile. 2 years is not long enough. 4 years is not long enough. Whenever you hear somebody talk about a presidency, and I don't care if it's a Democratic president or a Republican president, talk about a presidency and say, "Are you better off than you were 4 years ago?" That's an asinine question, because you are not going to change anything in 4 years. I don't care what kind of president you are. You're just not. the structural socioeconomic issues in this country that are affected by presidential politics in 4-year increments are decades old.
And
decades old.
Absolutely.
We have so many problems in this country that were set up by Eisenhower, Johnson, Nixon, Kennedy, just all these different programs that are only now starting to reap the benefits or the problems 40, 50, 60 years later.
Yep, absolutely.
And so to blame a president, whether it's and I'm not, like I said, this isn't a political statement. This isn't an Obama statement. This is, if you blame a president for not getting everything done in 4 years and giving giving everybody an iPod and a jetpack in 4 years, you're missing
we get a jetpack?
You didn't hear that? That's part of.
Sign me up. Hell, if I didn't get a jetpack, I'd have voted Obama.
Well, it's part of his 2012 platform that he didn't want to release until after he got elected.
Everybody gets a jetpack. Nice. Well, and I agree with that. My thing about public service is that it should be public and it should be service. And I think that one of the arguments against term limits, like you were just outlining, is you have this kind of experience drain.
Yep.
If you're truly a public servant, I am sure that you will be able to step forward after somebody has taken your seat and they could ask you, well, hey, this is kind of what was going on. What were you thinking? There's all kinds of stuff. They're called consultants, I also think I don't think they should get the perks that they get. What do you think? You think they should have great retirement and great health care? Or do you think they ought to...
our elected officials?
Yeah, our elected officials. I mean, I don't think they ought to have what they have. I think that they ought to go in there, have to face the same rules we have, and then when they get out, they can't lobby, right?
Well, that's already a rule, though. They can't lobby in certain industries where they were in a regulatory.
But they can't lobby ever. Period.
Well,
for
I don't
anything.
think they can. I don't think they can. Isn't that what John Ensign got in so much trouble for? Because he got. Remember, I mean, he didn't do it, but he got his staffer a job as a lobbyist out within the time limit. Yeah. And that's what he got in in a bunch of trouble for. And so I think that's already in place. But
let me do an update in Florida. 4-point swing toward Barack Obama. Looks like close to 40% of the precincts. Romney is behind by about 100. Oh, it's 35% of the precincts. Romney's behind by about 130,000 votes. Palm Beach County has reported. Mm-hmm. That's huge. And Dade County has reported. However, there's the rest of Florida is a solid red, except for up around Mickey Mouse country.
There's no way that Miami-Dade is completely reported.
I'm telling you, they said they're already reported. That's what they said.
That's insane to me because they're the ones that always have the problems.
The other thing that's funny here is there no incumbents are really in trouble, except for Allen West. He's in real trouble. He's down 56 to 44. But he stepped on his. Well, I shouldn't say it that way since we will be recording this, but he really kind of screwed himself in that one. But it looks like there's a lot of Republicans that are going to be elected for the first time or reelected.
Down in Florida, you mean?
Yeah, down in Florida.
Well, I'll tell you what. What's so funny. You hear all about this change stuff. We've been hearing about change and from Romney and from Obama, and and how this is the biggest election of our lifetime, and it's not, folks. I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna be the turd in the punch bowl because no matter what happens in this election, I firmly believe nothing substantive about our country is going to change. Because you know what happened in this election? You know what happened in this presidential campaign?
What?
The two candidates spent the entire time beating up each other and not talking about the structural reforms that need to happen to make this the greatest, most prosperous country in the world.
Yeah, and one of the things I talk to people a lot about is fiscal conservatives are always looked at as Grinches. And the truth is we're not. What we get sick and tired of are things like Solyndra, $500 million down the tubes. Things like, $700 hammers. Those things irritate us. And what we really look at is if you have less chiefs and a lot more Indians, your organization is going to run better. you're actually going to have people to get stuff done, you know? And back in the day, it was, you know, you took a government job because you didn't have another option. And now it's like everybody wants a government job. It shouldn't be like that. It should be people want to work in private industry, and the government is only for, you know, bailouts, you know, for a safety net. And most fiscal conservatives I know and I talk to aren't just throw them out the door. They are, we don't mind having a safety net, but we're not going to provide living for a third of the population, which is where we're at now. Close to a third of our population is getting government assistance somehow. That's not how America should be. And in fact, the Czechoslovakians, they're really up against it, all right? And they have a third of their people on the welfare rolls. You just can't sustain that. It's just, you can't. And so for me, I mean, honest, an extra 25% of our population didn't suddenly become disabled over the last 3 years. It just didn't happen. They didn't, like, a third of our population didn't just go, ouch, man, I broke my leg and now I can't work. That didn't happen.
No, they just went through the greatest economic downturn since the Great Depression.
But that's still not disability. And there's record disability claims. There's record all kinds of government assistance claims. And really, we need to pull back and start going, well, listen, who really needs this and who really doesn't? JFK talked a lot about the independent spirit and also talked a lot about how we need to have a safety net, but it needs to be an honest safety net and not just a way of life. And if it wasn't for his vision, we wouldn't have the space program we have. That's one of the big complaints I have about the Republicans is, listen, you don't know how much. I mean, they made fun of Newt Gingrich and his moon base. Let's put a moon base up there. I'm all for that. I'd pay for that. I'd pay extra taxes to put a moon base up there. Mm-hmm. You know why? Now we can mine it. And if we mine it, then our expenses go down. If we can mine the Oort cloud, asteroids, you know, we have all these tonnage up in space. It would cost us virtually nothing to zip it back down. Did I just kind of go off on a wicked rant? I just ranted.
A little bit.
Frank, you got to just switch to Lefty and show his face and cut me off when I get the rant.
My sort of disgusted mom face. That kind of like.
Oh, well, Romney's projected to win Georgia as well.
Oh, man, not Georgia.
Not them. not them gun-clinging, Bible-clinging gun toters.
Not the Southern firewall that Obama was. I'm going to say firewall probably 8 more times tonight.
You know, well, you know, it really, if we already said this. If Obama loses, it's because he didn't pay attention enough to his base. And I don't know what it was. I don't think he just thought it, you know, Romney's such a doofus, or, you know,
oh, I see. And you know what? I did promise that I would have some harsh words to the Democrats too. If Barack Obama loses, the question the Democratic Party has to ask itself is not whether we were liberal enough. It is how did we let the party get that far away from its principles? Just like the conservatives have to ask themselves all the time. Because and you're right, the liberals over the last 25 years have spit in the eye of their most loyal supporters, the unions, the working class people, and the middle class folks. That's been their bread and butter for years, and in not taking a strong stance against the union attacks in Wisconsin and Ohio, in not having a strong stance on the folks when they're going after education reform and merit-based teacher pay and all those different things that the teachers unions have a problem with. What happened was it depressed enthusiasm. This president had he basically won a landslide as the first African-American president in history of this country. Basically spit in the eye of his base. I'm not saying that he necessarily needed to be more liberal. I'm saying he needed to, you know, put a hand out for the folks that helped get them. And if you heard about, there was one thing that struck me the most, how he got so much corporate donations back in 2008 because he said a whole lot of nice things about Wall Street. And then they turned around and he wasn't there for him. Now, at some point, you got to kind of just sort of mellow out and not be a petulant child. But you have to take care of your donor. You have to take care of your donors. You have to take care of your base. And that's how he'll lose if he loses.
I agree. Now, we're going to finish out the show. Where are you going to be this week?
Where am I going to be this week?
Yeah.
From a from a musical standpoint.
Why don't you come up with our intro, with our theme?
You want me to write a theme for you? I'll think about it.
Well, because that harmonica, man, you're great at the harmonica.
Well, thank
you. I've forgotten how good you were.
Well, I appreciate that. Doc came to a recent gig of mine. It was the first time I think that he's seen me perform in forever.
Well, I used to get a show just about every night, and then he moved.
Exactly. Well, anyway, I'll be participating in an open jam for supporting some friends of mine down in Norwalk at Cal's 2. That's on Saturday the 10th. And then I'll be performing a solo show at the Ducktail Lounge in Clive, 9 to 1 in the morning, Saturday, November 17th.
9 to 1 in the morning?
Yep.
For what? I mean,
I'll be playing 4 hours.
In the morning?
No, that's 9 p.m. to 1 in the morning.
Oh, all right.
Start at 9 p.m. on a Saturday.
I need to pay attention. All right. So that's where Lefty's going to be. Now, a mutual friend of ours, Annette Shade, said that there is a 6th annual Veterans Day event this Sunday, November 11th at 4 p.m. at Jordan Park Camp, Walnut Creek Community Church Campground, 2251 Fuller Road, West Des Moines, Iowa, 50265. It's hosted by Concerned Women for America. She would like people to show up and go out there and support our veterans, and that's something that Lefty and I agree on 100%.
100%.
And next week, you want to talk about FEMA and what it does and the usefulness of unions? I mean, because, those would be two interesting subjects, FEMA and the unions.
Absolutely.
All right. So we'll be back next week. Thank you all for tuning in today to Doc and Lefty. We are here every Tuesday from 6 to 7 p.m. just to be able to tell you what you ought to think.
Good night. We'll see you next week.
Good night. See ya.